I grip my water glass tighter, knuckles whitening as Calen's words hang in the air between us. So next week I'll be moving into the lakehouse, he says with a casual smile, as if announcing he's switching jobs or buying new shoes. Just until I figure things out. The champagne pops open beside me, my father Rowan beaming as he pours the bubbling liquid into crystal flutes I've never seen before. My mother Vera's china, the set she saves for Easter and Christmas, gleams under the chandelier light. The table arrangement should have been my first clue something was happening. Calen seated at the head of the table. The formal settings. The champagne chilling. This isn't Sunday dinner. It's an ambush. I've already started packing. Calen continues, accepting a flute from Dad with a gracious nod. It shouldn't take more than a day to get everything moved in. My parents exchange pleased glances across the table, nodding along as if this is the most reasonable plan in the world. As if my consent is merely a formality already given. To start fresh, my father says, raising his glass. Everyone lifts theirs in response. Everyone except me. The lakehouse boxes make sense now. 3 days ago I'd found them stacked against the garage wall, oversized plastic tubs labeled Calen's winter gear and Calen's books. When I texted him about them, he'd brushed it off. Just temporary storage, he said. Just until I found more space in my apartment. I should have known. Just like I should have known what it meant when I confronted my parents about paying Calen's rent for the 4th time this year. He's going through a rough patch, Mom had said, waving away my concerns. That's what family does. We help each other. I hear my mother's voice from last week, the phone call I wasn't supposed to overhear while waiting in her kitchen. Silas is so lonely in that big house, she told Aunt Maura. He needs his brother's company. Perfect timing, really. As if my life exists solely to accommodate Calen's latest crisis. I set my water glass down carefully, reaching for my briefcase on the floor beside me. The trembling in my hands has nothing to do with nervousness and everything to do with fury. Why do you look so serious? Calen laughs, his eyes darting briefly to our parents. This is good news for both of us. You get company, and I get to save on rent for a while. My fingers close around the manila envelope I'd brought, the one I'd almost left in the car, thinking tonight wasn't the right time. But there is no right time with my family. There is only their time, their plans, their expectations. The tremor in my hand steadies as I place the envelope on the table. Actually, I say, my voice calmer than I feel. I have news too. My parents' expressions shift instantly. My mother's smile falters, eyes narrowing slightly. My father lowers his champagne glass, forehead creasing with concern. The change is subtle but unmistakable, the united front forming against the son who isn't following the script. What kind of news? My mother's tone carries a warning. Don't ruin this. Don't be difficult. I feel the weight of familiar labels hovering in the air. Selfish, difficult, ungrateful. The stakes of defiance are clear. Disagree and become the family villain. Again, looking at their expectant faces, I realize this pattern has defined my entire life. Calen takes. I give. My parents enforce the transaction. The roles never change. The lines never shift. Until now. I place the manila envelope in the center of the table, my fingers lingering on the edge. The room falls silent, my family's anticipation hanging heavy in the air. What's that? My mother's voice carries a hint of irritation, as if my interruption is derailing an already settled plan. This, I say, carefully withdrawing the papers inside, is the sale agreement for my house. I sold it last week. I have 30 days left before I move. The silence that follows is absolute. Calen's champagne glass slips from his fingers, shattering against the hardwood floor. No one moves to clean it up. My father's mouth opens and closes like a fish suddenly finding itself on dry land. You what? Calen finally whispers. I flip through my phone, pulling up the Pinterest board I discovered this morning. Interesting timing, isn't it? While you were planning to move in, Mom and Aunt Moira were already designing your future bedroom in my house. I turn the screen toward them, displaying their meticulous board labeled Calen's new lake house. My throat tightens as I watch recognition flash across their faces. 9 years of saving every possible penny, working overtime, sacrificing vacations and new clothes, all to afford that house, my dream home. And to them, it was just another resource to be redirected to Calen. My father stands abruptly, towering over me. You can just cancel the sale, he says, waving his hand dismissively. These things have cooling-off periods. My mother rises too, resting her hand on his arm. Silas, we already promised Calen he could stay as long as he needed. You can't possibly expect him to find a place in 30 days. Actually, Aunt Moira pipes up from the end of the table. We were going to move most of his things next Tuesday while you were at work, just to make it easier for everyone. The coordinated betrayal steals my breath. I glance at Lorna, my neighbor and the only non-family member at dinner, sitting uncomfortably beside Aunt Moira. She stares fixedly at her plate, avoiding eye contact with everyone. You can't do this, my father says, his voice hardening. What about your property taxes coming due? You know I always help with those. The implied threat isn't subtle. His one annual contribution to my finances, dangled now as leverage. Silas, my mother says softly, her voice taking on the concerned tone she uses when discussing unstable people. I'm worried about you. This kind of impulsive decision-making isn't like you. Are you feeling all right? Have you been taking care of yourself? I recognize the strategy immediately. If not compliant, then possibly unwell. It's a familiar path in our family dynamic, one that's kept me in line for years. You did this on purpose, Calen accuses, tears streaming down his face. You found out I needed a place to stay and sold your house just to spite me. The accusation lands like a physical blow. This is how it always goes. My boundaries recast as cruelty, my self-preservation painted as selfishness. For a moment, I consider explaining the truth. The catastrophic roof replacement that drained my savings. The plumbing disaster. The HVAC system failure. The mounting financial pressure that made selling not just advisable, but necessary. But what would be the point? They've already cast me as the villain in this family drama. Why give them more ammunition? I made this decision for my own reasons, I say instead, keeping my voice steady. And it's final. So you're just going to leave your brother homeless? My mother's voice rises. After everything we've done for you, the familiar weight of guilt settles on my shoulders. Everything they've done for me. The invisible ledger of family obligation that only ever seems to accumulate in one direction. Calen isn't homeless, I point out. He has an apartment, and if that doesn't work, he has your spare bedroom. That's not the point, my father interjects. Family helps family. Period. The unspoken remainder of that sentence hangs in the air, and you're not being family. I think, I say carefully, gathering the sale papers back into the envelope, that we have different definitions of help. Under the table, I feel a gentle squeeze on my hand. Lorna, still avoiding eye contact with everyone else, whispers so quietly I almost miss it, good for you. It's a small validation, but at this moment, it feels monumental. One person in this room doesn't see me as selfish or cruel for protecting myself. As I sit there with my family's accusations hanging in the air, I wonder whether I should explain the financial struggles that forced me to sell my beloved home, or simply hold firm without justifying my decision. Would sharing my vulnerability help them understand, or just give them new ammunition to use against me? The first call comes Tuesday morning while I'm fixing my coffee. Aunt Moira's name flashes on my phone screen. Unusual for a weekday before 9. Silas, honey, I just talked to your mother. Her voice carries that particular tone, the one reserved for funerals and family scandals. Is it true you sold your house just to keep Calen from staying with you? My coffee sloshes over the rim of my mug, scalding my fingers. What? Calen called me in tears last night, said you sold your beautiful home out of spite, knowing he needed a place to stay. The burning on my hand fades as a different heat rises in my chest. That's not what happened. Your brother will be homeless, Silas. I never thought you could be so cruel. The calls continue all day. Uncle Warren, Cousin Jasper, even my father's golf buddy Chuck, whose connection to this situation escapes me entirely. Each conversation follows the same script. Calen's desperate situation, my apparent heartlessness, their profound disappointment in me. While preparing dinner, I make the mistake of checking Facebook. Calen's latest post appears at the top of my feed. The hardest lesson in life is learning who truly has your back when times get tough. Family should be forever, not just when it's convenient. 27 sympathetic comments follow, including one from Mom. We're here for you, sweetheart. Always. The knife in my hand chops carrots with increasing force. The final blow comes Thursday, when my colleague Ansel stops by my desk, his expression pinched with concern. I ran into your brother at Starbucks this morning, he says, lowering his voice. He told me about the house situation. If you need help finding him temporary housing, my church has a program. The carrot pieces on my cutting board splinter under the blade. What exactly did Calen tell you? Ansel shifts uncomfortably. Just that he's facing homelessness because of some sudden decision you made. He seemed really upset. My jaw tightens so hard it aches. Thanks for your concern, Ansel. But Calen isn't homeless. He has an apartment and parents with a 4-bedroom house. After Ansel leaves, I lock myself in the bathroom stall, hands trembling as I text my brother. Stop telling people I'm making you homeless. It's a lie and you know it. His response arrives instantly. You're selling the house I was counting on. What would you call it? The roof replacement came first. $14,000 I hadn't budgeted for when the March storms revealed leaks in 3 different rooms. I emptied my vacation fund and took a small loan, telling myself it was a one-time emergency. Then the plumbing disaster struck in April. $9,000 for emergency repairs and landscape restoration. I canceled plans to visit my college roommate in Colorado, picked up weekend consulting work for a local firm, and ate ramen for dinner more nights than I care to admit. The HVAC system failure in June was the final blow. $6,000 I simply didn't have. Each night after work, I'd sit at my kitchen table, surrounded by spreadsheets and bank statements, calculating and recalculating figures that refused to balance. The crying started around then. Silent tears that came only after midnight, when I was certain no neighbors walking dogs might glance through my windows and see the truth. That the man they waved to each morning, the one who always appeared composed and capable, was falling apart behind closed doors. My reflection in the bathroom mirror each morning revealed the cost. Dark hollows beneath my eyes that the concealer couldn't quite hide, cheekbones more pronounced against my shirts. When my pants began slipping at the waist, I punched new holes in my belt rather than by smaller sizes. Temporary situation, temporary solution. While maintaining this facade, I packed my home each evening. 9 years of memories sorted into keep, donate, and trash. Books that once lined entire walls now filled boxes stacked in corners. The graduation photos of friends, vacation snapshots, family pictures, all bubble-wrapped and nestled in containers labeled with black marker. Through it all, I documented everything. Bank statements in chronological order, house repair invoices filed by date and category, text messages screenshot and saved. A fortress of paper proof against the siege of family fiction. While packing my office bookshelf, I found it, a framed photo I'd almost forgotten. Me, standing on the front porch of this house the day I signed the mortgage papers, keys clutched in my hand, a smile threatening to split my face. The doorbell rings Saturday afternoon while I'm wrapping dishes in the newspaper. Through the front window, I spot my parents' Buick in the driveway, Calen's red compact behind it. No warning text, no courtesy call. I consider not answering, but the knocking grows more insistent. When I open the door, they file in like funeral directors, solemn, judgmental, prepared to manage a difficult situation. Mom spots the boxes immediately. You're really going through with this madness. I fold the newspaper around another plate, securing it with tape. The closing is in 3 weeks. Your brother needs you. Mom's voice rises slightly. You've always been selfish, but this is beyond understanding. The plate in my hands remains steady, though something shifts inside me. I've spent my entire life being told what Calen needs. The words emerge calmer than I feel. Did anyone ever ask what I need? Dad clears his throat. Silas, be reasonable. I need financial stability. I need to sleep at night without panic attacks about bills. I need to not drain my retirement fund for house repairs I can't afford. I continue wrapping dishes methodically. Unlike past confrontations, I don't stop what I'm doing to give them my full attention. I don't offer beverages or comfortable seats. I continue my work while they stand awkwardly in my half-packed kitchen. We're your family, Mom says, voice wavering between anger and disbelief. Yes, you are. And I've never once asked you for money. Not for college, not for my first apartment, not for this house, and not for the repairs that drain my savings. For once, they have no immediate response. Calen stares at the floor, unable to meet my eyes. Dad examines the ceiling as if architectural features have suddenly become fascinating. I realize with startling clarity that I no longer need their approval or understanding. The constant ache for validation I've carried since childhood has quieted, replaced by something sturdier. When I stand to reach for another stack of plates, I notice my posture has changed. Shoulders back, spine straight, eyes level with theirs instead of downcast as usual. The physical manifestation of an internal shift. Family helps family, or you're not family, my father sneers. For the first time in my life, I looked him dead in the eye. Then I'm not. Lorna arrives that evening with Chinese food and 2 bottles of wine. She helps me pack photo albums while sharing stories of her own brother, the one who didn't speak to her for 3 years after she refused to co-sign a loan. Family patterns are the hardest to break, she says, carefully wrapping a crystal vase my grandmother left me. But sometimes breaking them is the only way forward. Monday brings an unexpected text from my colleague Ansel. Need help moving? Got a truck and strong back. Family often sees us least clearly. Just say when. That afternoon, Bjorn, my financial advisor, emailed confirmation of my loft application approval. Based on your finances, this move reduces your housing costs by 42%. The right decision for your long-term security. Call if you need anything else. The contrast strikes me as I review these messages over dinner. These people ask what I need rather than telling me what to give. They offer specific help instead of vague demands. That night, I spread my financial documents across the dining room table. Bank statements, repair invoices, property tax assessments, retirement account withdrawals, everything meticulously organized. The complete picture of my financial reality. At exactly 7 o'clock Tuesday evening, the doorbell rings. When I open it, I find not just my parents and Calen on the porch, but Aunt Moira, Uncle Warren, and my cousin Jasper standing behind them. A family firing squad assembled for execution. I stand at the head of my dining room table, a position that feels foreign yet right. The manila folder in my hands holds every financial statement, every bill, every painful reminder of why I had to sell my home. My fingers no longer tremble as I open it. Before anyone says another word, I need you all to see something. My voice carries a steadiness I don't entirely recognize. The family gathering looks larger than I anticipated. My parents, Calen, Uncle Warren, Aunt Moira, and my support team, Lorna, Bjorn, and Ansel. I lay out the documents methodically, arranging them in chronological order. Bank statements, emergency fund withdrawals, contractor invoices. Each paper tells part of the story I've kept hidden. This is the roof replacement from last spring. I slide the $14,000 invoice toward the center where everyone can see it. The 30-year shingles only lasted 22. Insurance covered nothing. Uncle Warren adjusts his glasses, leaning forward with a frown that cuts deep lines across his forehead. Plumbing disaster, $9,000. Another paper joins the first. When the city updated the main line, it revealed my connection was deteriorating. No warning, no payment plan offered. My mother shifts in her seat, but remains uncharacteristically silent. HVAC system replacement, $6,000. The third major bill completes my trinity of home ownership nightmares. The energy efficiency rebate covered barely a quarter of the cost. I maintain direct eye contact as I speak, something I rarely managed in family confrontations before. Bjorn nods almost imperceptibly from his seat near the window, encouraging me to continue. My emergency fund is gone. I place my bank statement on top, the balance painfully clear. My financial advisor recommended selling while the market is still hot rather than risking a forced sale later when I might be underwater. Calen's chair scrapes against the hardwood as he stands abruptly. This is creative accounting, Silas. You've always been good with numbers when it suits you. His voice carries the familiar accusatory edge. You're just trying to avoid your family responsibilities. Uncle Warren, whose judgment I've feared since childhood, surprises me by turning toward my brother. Calen, what's your current employment situation? Last I heard, you were between jobs. The unexpected redirection leaves Calen fumbling. I'm exploring opportunities. The job market is complicated right now. My mother jumps in. Warren, this isn't about employment. Family duty exists regardless of finances. Silas has always had that beautiful house with all that extra space. Speaking of space, Aunt Moira interjects, her reading glasses perched on her nose as she examines my heating bill. Why can't Calen stay with you and Vera? You have that guest room you just redecorated. The conversation shifts like a current. pulling away from me and swirling around the room as family members begin questioning the arrangement I've endured my entire adult life. Lorna clears her throat. I've known this family for 15 years. Silas bought his house without any family financial support. Meanwhile, I've watched Calen receive help with rent, car payments, and credit card bills repeatedly. Her voice carries the weight of long observation. The pattern has been clear to everyone except those closest to it. Bjorn straightens his jacket before speaking. As Silas's financial advisor, I can tell you that enabling financial dependency ultimately harms both parties. The one giving depletes their resources, while the receiver never develops crucial life skills. Ansel, sitting quietly until now, leans forward. My brother lived with my parents until he was 42. They paid his bills, made his appointments, solved his problems. When they passed, he had no idea how to function. He lost their house within a year because he never learned to manage money. He glances at my parents. Sometimes the most loving thing is to stop rescuing someone. The room falls unusually quiet as these outside perspectives penetrate the family mythology we've operated under for decades. Uncle Warren breaks the silence. Silas, why didn't you share these financial struggles sooner? I hesitate, the question catching me off guard. Before I can answer, my father shifts in his chair, eyes fixed on the hardwood floor. It's the first time I can remember him sitting through a family discussion without dominating it. My mother's rigid posture gradually softens, her hands now resting open on the table instead of clenched in her lap. Calen stands suddenly, grabbing his jacket. This is ridiculous. You're all acting like I'm some kind of parasite. Silas has always been the golden child with his perfect house and perfect job, while everyone ignores how hard things have been for me. When no one jumps to his defense, he storms toward the door. The slam echoes through the house as he leaves. Uncle Warren waits for the reverberations to fade before speaking again. I think it's time we had a family financial planning session. For everyone. He looks pointedly toward my parents, including Calen. My mother's eyes glisten with unshed tears, but for once, they're not being weaponized against me. My father reaches for her hand across the table, his face unreadable, but his silence speaking volumes. For the first time in a family confrontation, I'm not the one left feeling like I've done something wrong. As the meeting winds down, I pull Uncle Warren aside. There's something else you should know. The sale isn't to a stranger. His eyebrows raise. The city development board bought it. They're planning to tear it down for a luxury resort. His eyes widen as the implications sink in. Calen's dream inheritance was never going to exist anyway. The town newsletter announces the sale Tuesday morning. Historic lakehouse sold to City Development Board for resort project. By noon, the news had spread through Asheville's tight-knit community like wildfire. I'm at the hardware store when I overhear two cashiers discussing it. Can you imagine counting on inheriting a house, only to find out it's being torn down for condos? That Morton boy is going to be crushed when he finds out. The irony isn't lost on me. Calen's dream inheritance will become an upscale retreat, his expectations demolished along with the building. That evening, I stopped by Murphy's Tavern for dinner. The usual crowd gathers around the bar, their conversation drifting to the development project. Heard one of the Morton boys was planning to move into that place, someone says. Talk about bad timing. I keep my head down, eating my burger while listening to my brother become a punchline. It's not satisfaction I feel, exactly, but a kind of poetic justice. The house he felt entitled to was never going to be his anyway. At least this way, I got fair market value for it instead of watching it get seized by creditors. Calen, unable to pay his own rent, moves back into Rowan and Vera's cramped guest room within the week. The golden child becomes a burden under their own roof. I hear about it through Aunt Moira, who calls with obvious frustration in her voice. Your brother is struggling with the adjustment, she says carefully. Your parents are finding it challenging too. The subtext is clear. The family dynamic that worked when I was absorbing all of Calen's problems falls apart when my parents have to live with the consequences directly. He's not finding work as quickly as expected, she continues. And living at home at 35 is harder than anyone anticipated. I make appropriate sympathetic noises while feeling privately vindicated. This is what I try to tell them. Enabling someone doesn't help them grow. It just delays their eventual reckoning with reality. Is there any chance, Aunt Moira asks hesitantly, that you might reconsider helping with a security deposit for an apartment? No, I say simply. There isn't. The conversation ends there. Thanksgiving arrives with an invitation I almost don't accept. But curiosity wins over caution, and I find myself seated at my parents' table once again. The atmosphere is subdued, polite conversations replacing the usual boisterous family dynamics. Calen sits beside me, thinner than I remember, his eyes carrying a defeated quality I've never seen before. How's the job search going? I ask, genuinely curious. It's challenging, he admits quietly. Turns out I don't have as much experience as I thought. For the first time in our adult relationship, Calen asks me about my work, my new apartment, my life. Real questions, not the performative interest he used to show when parents were watching. I'm sorry, he says suddenly, so quietly I almost miss it. I didn't understand what you were dealing with. With the house, I mean. I thought everything came easily to you. I study his face, looking for manipulation, but find only exhaustion. Things don't come easily to anyone, I tell him. I just didn't advertise my struggles. 3 months later, I stand in the center of my downtown loft, savoring the space around me. Sunlight streams through the industrial windows, warming the concrete floors beneath my bare feet. This place felt foreign at first, a compromise rather than a choice. Now it feels like the home I never knew I needed. My mortgage payment appears in green on my banking app, a full 30% less than what I paid for the lakehouse. Bjorn's weekly check-ins have transformed what was once my greatest source of anxiety into a structured ritual I actually look forward to. The kitchen island holds my newest purchase, a professional-grade camera that would have remained a distant wish in my old financial reality. My first photography class starts tomorrow evening. The course catalog is still open on my tablet. I run my fingers over the camera's textured grip, permission to create rather than just survive. My phone buzzes with a message from Calen. Got the job. Start Monday. Thank you for not enabling me to stay comfortable in failure. It's the most mature thing he's ever said to me. I text back, proud of you. Months later, my phone rings with a call I've been expecting but dreading. Silas. My father's voice sounds smaller than I remember. I was wondering if we could talk. About Calen, about money, about, well, everything. I'm quiet for a moment, watching pedestrians walk past my loft window. What did you want to talk about specifically? He needs help with a security deposit. For his own place. I was wondering if you might consider. I don't let him finish. Dad, the best thing I ever did for Calen was refuse to enable him. The best thing you can do is the same. I hang up mid-sentence, walking out onto my balcony overlooking downtown Asheville. For the first time in decades, I feel free. The story of how I made my brother homeless by refusing to be his safety net will echo across family lore forever. But I know the truth. I didn't make him homeless. I made him grow up. The difference between those two things is everything. As I watch the sun set over the mountains, I realize that sometimes the most loving thing you can do for a family is to refuse to save them from themselves.